Hello, today it's such a pleasure having you on today's edition of Let's Talk here on LoveWorldPlus. My name is Zoe Okafor. Now, the Islamist militant sect Boko Haram has been terrorizing Nigeria's population for almost 2 years now, sapping economic development in the north of the country. Now, experts say that the country may have lost over a quarter of its gross domestic product, estimated to the Boko Haram insurgency, of which agriculture contributes about 48% of the GDP. Now, the whole of northern Nigeria has been affected. Curfews, closed borders, and transport difficulties have brought commerce to a standstill. Now, for agriculture, production has dropped. A lot of farmers have had to abandon farmlands, which has also contributed to the rising costs of food and agricultural commodities in the country. Now, the question is, can the security risks be minimized for a more viable agricultural sector? Now, this is the main issue that we will be addressing in today's discussion. Of course, the topic is minimizing security risks for a viable agricultural sector in Nigeria. And to help me address this very question, I am joined this morning by Sotonye Anga, who is the CEO, Universal Quest Nigeria Limited. He is also the National Publicity Secretary of the National Cashew Association of Nigeria. He is a social expert. He also is the coordinator of the agribusiness and youth empowerment of Cashew Agric, that is the community of agricultural stakeholders of Nigeria. You're welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you, Zoe.
Such an impressive resume, I might add.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're looking at agriculture this morning. We're looking at minimizing the risks, the security risks rather. And I want us to start by assessing the threats, assessing the security risks. Now, in your opinion, how would you quantify the risks that are being posed to agriculture and its viability? How do you look at the threats that are being posed and how big or how small that they are to agriculture?
Zoe, the threat is really big, huge. The threat is so real that it has paralyzed agriculture in Nigeria. Okay. We need to understand that the major production area for most agricultural crops fall along this northern belt, okay, particularly in Borno, in Yobe State, Jigawa, Kano. This is a strategic axis for food production. Okay, now, and then you go towards the plateau, Jos. All of these areas are heavy in food production. The way Nigeria is, the west and the south and the east depend on this huge food production that comes from the north and the middle belt. Now, the security challenge that we've been faced with in this country happen to, take place within this belt. The challenge we're looking at is so terrible that something needs to be done. Look, in Borno State, you can't do agribusiness because even in your farm, you're not safe. You can be in the farm producing whatever crop you're producing and somebody comes and shoots you, and that's it. Now, once they shoot you, that is the end of your history, that's the end of your life, that's the end of everything about you, that's the end of your agribusiness. And nobody comes to pay compensation, nobody comes to, so life is worthless. So the security challenge is a big one. It has affected, in fact, the worst hit sector is the agric sector. Okay. So we cannot afford to close our eyes and just feel at peace that nothing is going wrong. So much has gone wrong. Okay. And we need to address security because right now, security means prosperity. Security means agribusiness. So you take away security, there is no prosperity. You take away security, there is no agribusiness. So this is how huge the threat is. So we need to address it, and addressing it involves doing it now.
Okay. Now, paint us a little picture about how this has impacted agriculture, especially in terms of agricultural output, you know, to help us understand how have these security threats impacted agricultural output?
Now, see, look, something happened. Some farmers were killed by unknown gunmen.
Right.
This happened in Yobe. These men came in their pickup vans, went straight to the farm, and they shot everybody within that farm. And just like that, so how would you even identify the farmers that were killed? No identity. The federal government, in their wisdom, is planning to add 20 million metric tons of food into our food production. How is this going to happen? You depend a lot on the North to produce this. It won't happen, because if people are afraid for their lives, they cannot go to farm. Not just for the farmers, even the transporters, the people that would have to carry the produced crop, they are also afraid, because you can be in your truck driving and somebody comes and shoots you, and that's the end. Okay, so the problem is a very big problem. Even if you're in your office, you're not safe. You can be in your warehouse, you know, say you're processing one agricultural crop and somebody comes and shoots you. So there is no value for life.
All right.
Now, when you live in an environment where there is no value for life, you know there is a serious problem.
Yes, there is.
So this is what we're facing. This is what the agricultural sector is facing. So it's a very big problem. You cannot leave Lagos to say you want to go and trade in Kano, and you can sleep with your eyes closed. You're so afraid, because even in the hotel where you're sleeping, you're not sure of your life. Somebody can come here, bomb the hotel, or come and shoot you. So this is a serious problem. So it has made agribusiness high-risk business.
Okay.
You know, remember, you're going into business to make profit. Where will you talk about profit when your life is not, your safety is not guaranteed?
Yeah.
So this is a very big problem. It's a terrible one.
Okay, now in terms of security, we know that one of the responsibilities of government is to create an enabling environment, especially also for agriculture. And the government has tried, you know, the government has made some efforts to try sort of tackle the terrorism challenge. Now, more recently, we heard of a panel being set up by the federal government to look into granting amnesty to Boko Haram, or, you know, terrorists, as it were. Now, do you think that will solve the challenge? Do you think that is going to address security, like granting amnesty to some of these militants? Do you think that will, to some extent, curb terrorism?
When you look at amnesty, amnesty is about pardon. Somebody must commit an offense, yes, to warrant a pardon of any sort. Now, I do not support Boko Haram. I do not support what they stand for. I do not support what they are doing. I do not support anything about them. So I want that to be very clear. But I come here as an agribusiness expert, and I'm talking agribusiness. Yeah. The issue at hand is serious. Whatever Boko Haram is doing, they've made enough negative impact, in the sense that they have demonstrated they are influential negatively. Yeah. They've also demonstrated they are powerful. And they've demonstrated that they have huge capacity to cause damage to the economy. Understand that the northern economy is almost at a comatose. They've paralyzed the economy. No serious economic activity is going on. So if these people are this powerful, and government till date have not been able to address or contain the activities of Boko Haram so effectively, I think then giving them audience becomes important. Okay. So if you're granting pardon, because they've caused so much mayhem, they've caused so much trouble, they've caused so much damage to the economy of the North, they've destroyed the economy of the North. So if you will grant them pardon, and that will lead to cessation or ceasefire and a stop in their destructive activity, so be it. Okay. Now, that does not mean that I support Boko Haram. Yeah. But the point is that they've left such negative impact they've distorted business, they've stopped economic activity in the north. So if the activities of Boko Haram is curtailed, it means that economic prosperity can be guaranteed in the north. Okay, so if you give them pardon, if that is going to solve the problem, go ahead with your amnesty.
Okay.
Go ahead with your amnesty. If that will address the problem, go ahead with it, because the problem is big.
Okay. Now, if you're just joining, we're looking at minimizing security risks for a viable agricultural sector within Nigeria. We've said quite a bit, and we're still looking at the security risks and the threats, which are very real, you know, like we have already discovered in this discussion. Now, we're looking at the local farmers who are, I would say, in the direct line of fire. You talked about, you know, incidents where somewhere in the farm and then gunmen walk in there and they're being shot and everything. Now, what else do you think that the government can do to alleviate the sufferings, especially of these farmers who do the actual, you know, cultivating of the lands and who are involved directly with agricultural activities? What can be done to protect them, really, because they are the ones who are really at the most risk here?
One, we have to rehabilitate our farmers. See, the threat is so real. The farmers in the north have gone through too much pain, too much distress. Their psyche have been so battered. They've seen a whole lot of bloodletting, they've seen a whole lot of killing, that I think their entire mindset has been affected. So farmers need to be rehabilitated. They need to be assured that, look, their safety can be guaranteed. They need to be assured that their lives will be protected. These are the primary responsibility of government. So government need to give them assurances. That's why you have to first tackle and address the Boko Haram people.
The threat itself.
Yes, you have to address the threat, because that threat is real. Okay, if Boko Haram makes an announcement that nobody should go to farm, I'm telling you, nobody would dare go to that farm. Nobody will go. But if government says nobody should go to farm, people wake up and still go to farm. So you can see the fear that Boko Haram has brought upon farmers. So if you address the Boko Haram problem, if you give them amnesty, if amnesty will solve the problem, well, the amnesty talk is just some 2 weeks old. Okay, the committee will have to sit for 2 weeks to work out a template to address this problem. And you see, they need to really sit down and do a very thorough job. And I think it is high time for the Boko Haram people to come out. You can't give amnesty to people that are invisible. Okay, you can't give amnesty to spirit. So I would urge the Boko Haram people, the leaders of the sect, to come out, okay, and receive the olive branch that has been extended to them. What is important is peace. That once you address that Boko Haram factor, our farmers in the north, we have to rehabilitate them. That's very crucial. And after you finish the rehabilitation, you need to provide them with seedlings, hybrid seedlings. Very important. You need to provide them with farm input, chemicals, fertilizers. Okay, understanding that their economy has been so battered, they need support.
They need support.
They need support. You can't just tell them, okay, good, we've addressed Boko Haram, the problem is over, go back to your farm. They need money to go back to their farm. They need seed to go back to their farm, because most of them, they've even lost their houses and all of that.
Okay, what about the southern, you know, the farmers in the southern regions and maybe even the eastern parts? Do you think that they are in some way able to meet up with the deficit that's been caused by the attack, which is based mainly in the north?
Look at the structure again of Nigeria. When you talk about the major crop we consume, maize, beans, okay, you produce them in the north. Tomatoes, all of these things come from the north.
Okay.
There is no provision or adequate work had not been done to encourage production of these crops within the southwest or the east or the south-south. Okay? What you have here is cocoa in the west. You can't eat cocoa. You can't eat it. Okay, you have cashew, you have other economic crop. We're talking about the main crops that staple food. You produce them there.
Okay.
Now, so again, what this means is that we need to diversify our production base of diversified agricultural crop.
Okay.
Whatever you can grow in the north, you can also grow in the west, you can also grow in the south. Okay, let us invest heavily into research to see how we can use the same crop that is grown in the north to produce them in the south, to produce them in the west. I think that will, to a great extent, help us.
Okay, finally, very quickly, I just need you to give a parting shot. We've established that the threat is very real. Something has to happen immediately so as to ensure the food security of Nigeria. What would you tell government, apart from rehabilitation and diversifying of the production base that you've mentioned? What has to happen immediately? Immediately,
look, we need to understand that government is government. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He needs to take responsibility for his decision, for his action. Go ahead, do anything you think is right to safeguard the interests of Nigerians. Go ahead, do it, don't look back. There's a political side, there's the economic side, and there are personal interests. But go ahead, take responsibility for anything you're doing, do it and do it well, so that there will be peace in Nigeria, there will be safety, there will be security, and agribusiness will be enhanced. And for agriculture and for our farmers need to do their business. So address the Boko Haram threat is a real one. Address the insecurity is real. Address these problems, let Nigeria progress, let Nigeria prosper. So take the decisions that will promote Nigeria, that will keep my life in safety and keep your life in safety.
In safety and keep us producing food as well. Well, we've been looking at minimizing security risks for a viable agricultural sector in Nigeria. It's been very, very insightful. We hope to have another discussion based on this. I have been talking with Sotonye Anga, who is the CEO of Universal Quest Nigeria Limited. He also is the National Publicity Secretary of the National Cashew Association of Nigeria, a social expert among many others. Thank you so much for shedding more light on this and for coming as well. Thank you as well for being part of this program. As always, let's talk. Let's be back here tomorrow, same time, same station, for another insightful topic that we will be discussing on this program. Don't forget to check out our news website. Our website, it's the address you know already. Go there and find out. There'll be a lot for you to have.